Fanservice is the name of the game in this week's episode of Samurai Jack, as Ashi travels across the dystopian lands ruled by the evil malice of Aku, and instead of darkness, she discovers a wake of hope. All of the people that Jack has encountered, all of the lives that he has saved and changed, make her go through a transformation not just on a personal level, but even on a physical one. Not to mention, this week's episode features the return of Scaramouche! This episode took me right back to my early teens. I absolutely loved all of the callbacks to the classic episodes of Samurai Jack in this week's episode. I think it's safe to say that this week's episode was made for the hardcore fans of the series, and I have to admit, it is hilarious that I myself, as an adult, find myself getting super excited and screaming into the air, "The Woolies have returned!" Like, this episode just totally brought me back to the original half of Samurai Jack and all the early adventures that he went on. There are a ton of cameos in this episode. Not only do we get to see the return of the Woolies, those big woolly aliens which were being subjugated by those little evil blue ones, but we also get to see the return of the Anubis guards and the brand new society that they have created. We get to see the return of the Samurai, if you remember that guy, the rapping samurai who now owns that weird CD bar inhabited by all sorts of weird and freaky aliens. We get to see the return of tons of classic villains, some of which were some of Aku's favorites, but most importantly, we get to see the return of Scaramouche, who, despite the fact that he's just a decapitated head, manages to make one hell of a journey in this episode as he desperately tries to get a phone call with Aku. It is one of the funniest subplots that I've seen from the episode, and it leads to some of the greatest imagery, especially this scene where he's trying to get on this boat, but this bouncer won't let him on because no shirt, no shoes, no body. So first he attaches himself to a dog. That doesn't work at all. Then he attaches himself to this weird alien with a head that, according to Scaramouche, and he says this out loud, basically looks like he has a penis for a head. I especially love when he finally does make it to the boat. He's just hanging out on a lounge chair, and he just notices out of the corner of his eye that there's a freaking phone booth just on this big ship for no reason. And he tries to make a phone call to Aku when suddenly he realizes that there's a lot of noise on the boat, and it happens to be all of these anthropomorphic dogs, one of which looks basically just like Astro from the Jetsons. They end up getting so annoyed by Scaramouche that they end up just throwing his head into the middle of the ocean. Without a doubt, the big star of this week's episode, though, is Ashi, who manages to not only be influenced by Jack, but actually see all of the good that he has done for the world. We also get to learn that apparently that black outfit that she's been wearing, along with the other daughters of Aku, is not even an outfit in the first place. We get this really disturbing flashback where we get to see that the daughters of Aku went through this ritual where their bodies were tossed in hot, burning ash, and that's actually what sort of transformed their skin into that color. And she goes through this process, which is both metaphorical and just really awesome, where she goes into this cleansing river, washes herself completely, and is free of the evil ash of Aku, and she puts on a brand new outfit which reflects her brand new feelings about nature and how it's something that is to be cherished, something that the samurai has saved. She even has a brand new haircut, and she just looks gorgeous. She's a liberated woman, and she's going to do everything in her power to find Jack, and at the end of the episode, she does find him, and we also get some answers as to who that mysterious samurai on the horse is, and apparently it's some sort of evil samurai spirit which has been guiding Jack to this ancient graveyard where all of these dead samurai go, and these samurai apparently have committed some great sins, or they've done things in the past which have led to the deaths of many people, and they feel that when they have done this, they've lost all of their honor, and the only way to even sort of regain any of it is to take their very own lives. And you have Jack, who's getting ready to impale himself with his own sword while this ghostly samurai is going to decapitate him, but Ashi manages to fight back against the ghostly images, gets Jack back to his senses, and they decide there's only one thing left to do: get his sword back and finish off Aku. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Samurai Jack? I was just smiling from ear to ear in this episode. It made me really appreciate the fact that I've actually seen every episode of the series, and the fact that I haven't even, seen these things in a long time. Like, the last time I saw the episode of the Woolies was, like, back in the early 2000s, and yet I completely remembered who they were, what they were called, and I was so excited to see them make an appearance. In fact, this whole episode was basically just sort of like a big nostalgia trip. I also really loved the scene where Ashi ended up going to, like, this big alien rave with all of these aliens who were big fans of Jack, and they had this big musical number, which was also really impressive just with the amount of colors, and the music itself was very catchy. Ashi actually getting into it and dancing to it was also just a really, really great thing. You could see how much her personality has actually changed just in the last couple of episodes, and even by the end of it, I'm starting to see Ashi as maybe even a love interest for Jack. When he sees her brand new look, he's actually taken aback a bit, and he seems to really enjoy it, but being that he is a man of action, he is ready to take on Aku and get his sword back, which I think is awesome. What I also really loved about this episode was just getting to see how much of an influence that Jack has actually had on this world. Despite the fact that he thinks that everything he's been doing has been for naught, and that it's resulted into the supposed deaths of many children, the world is much better with his presence in it, and you get to see how he sort of touched the lives of all of these people. They actually build monuments to him, giant statues of Jack. They've all been influenced in some sort of way, whether that be them actually getting defeated and them being robots, or the samurai who returns and has opened up his bar, who tells this story, which is supposed to be sad along with the other robots, but he's just lamenting over the fact that he hasn't seen his friend in quite some time, who greatly influenced him and showed him what it truly means to be an honorable samurai. That and the fact that it was just a gorgeous looking episode from beginning to end, a lot of great art direction, and it's good to see these old character designs come back and look just as classic as they did before with like a brand new fresh coat of paint. It was just something that I really loved as a fan of the series, and something that I think most old-school Samurai Jack fans are really going to eat up in this episode. Like I said, we even got the return of some classic villains. I unfortunately forgot his name, but there's that one guy that Jack went up against who has the fiery blue hair and the large black cloak, and he makes like a really short cameo, just sort of pops his head into the bar for a second. But like my jaw hit the floor when I saw that. Oh my god, that dude's back too! And that combined with Scaramouche just like making his way through the episode was great. That and the fact there was also a little more adult humor in this episode. There was actually some straight up cursing in this episode, which I had to say felt kind of out of place and almost unnecessary at times. Although, I found myself laughing my ass off when Scaramouche actually compared that one alien's face to a penis. That was just comedy gold right there. That combined with the amazing art style and the simple storytelling that manages to hit you at your core make this a fantastic episode of the series, and arguably the turning point for the final season of Samurai Jack. What more can I say? This one was made for the Jack fans, and you should definitely check it out. It relies not only on the new characters, but the old characters, and they all mesh perfectly together. And it comes together to form another awesome animation package. 5 out of 5 from me. Great episode of Samurai Jack. Make sure to check it out, guys. If any of you did watch this week's episode of Samurai Jack, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Were you getting the nostalgia feels in this episode with the return of a lot of other classic characters and cameos? Did you have a favorite one who appeared in this week's episode? What do you think is going to happen now with the relationship between Jack and Ashi? Do you think they're actually going to form something of a loving relationship? Or do you still see it as more of like a father-daughter kind of thing? Were you satisfied by the reveal of the mysterious samurai ghost? And what do you hope to see from the rest of the final season of Samurai Jack? Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Samurai Jack related, as well as a ton of other anime reviews. Make sure to leave me a comment about what you thought about this week's episode. I'm always down for a good conversation. I'd love to talk with you guys. And of course, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.